So Wednesday will be the final game of the men's international summer after 6 tests, 6 one-day internationals and 6 T20s. Managed to be played against 4 separate touring teams. It's a great effort to get the games on. It looked at certain points unlikely we get any cricket played at all this summer. And as you know, the matches have been hosted at 2 grounds exclusively, the Ageas Bowl in Southampton and here at Emirates Old Trafford. But how have these venues managed to deliver this? What with the numerous pitches to prepare, logistics to organise in unprecedented circumstances? Well, let's talk to the Hampshire chairman, Rod Bransgrove, who's somewhere on the line, and below the commentary box in the stands, Daniel Gidney. Hello, Daniel, the Chief Executive of Lancashire. Nice to have you both with us. Well, let's start with Rod. Come on, Rod. Can you believe that we've seen so many games completed?
No, I can't, frankly, and I can't believe that it's nearly over already. It seems to have gone incredibly quickly, really. I guess that it's been so frenetic that time has passed very quickly, and you know, I'm very, very proud and pleased with what we've had the potential to do here this summer.
Yeah. And Daniel, how about you? Here, I sitting in the sunshine at Old Trafford, nobody in the ground, of course, but you've got another good game set up.
Yes, absolutely fantastic, and welcome to sunny Manchester. I think it only rains in Southampton, doesn't it? This year?
Oh, don't you two start up.
But no, we've been absolutely thrilled this summer. It's been really hard work. I've been doing this a while, and I've never had a summer quite like this one. And an international venue only normally does 2 to 6 days of international cricket, and it will be 21, which is really some going. And for what ourselves and Ageas have done, I think, can't really be, understated. Really, I think it's been remarkable and been very, very challenging for us to do this for all sorts of different reasons. But look, we're here, we got through, and all credit must go to the ECB, but particularly the West Indies team and the Pakistan team and now the Australians. But I go back to right at the start when the West Indies team had to come. They flew into Manchester Airport, into the private terminal, and they had to quarantine here for 2 weeks, and they were just unbelievably fantastic to host. So I think going back to that start, what some of these teams have had to sacrifice to come here, huge credit to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hear to that. Rod, I remember ringing you up earlier on in the summer and saying, come on, what is the chance, do you think, of you being able to stage these test matches and being in the hotels and so on? And we had a good chat about it, and it seemed even then that it seemed a long way off for the sort of the reality of actually being able to do it and all the logistics and so on. When did it start? When did you start to really think, actually, hang on a minute, there is an opportunity here for this to be done?
Well, I guess not until we were actually appointed as one of the grounds with Old Trafford to stage these matches. We've been overlooked so many times that it wouldn't have surprised me if it would have happened again. But once we started work on it, it was very clear that there was an enormous amount of new learning to be done. And you've actually stayed in both of the hotels, so you will see the extent to which we've had to modify the hotel business to make sure that we have one-way systems for pedestrians and protection in lifts and restaurants and the like. It's an extraordinary process that we've all gone through, and it's been very well led, as Daniel said, by Steve Elworthy and the ECB team. But equally, the groundsman at both grounds, when you bear in mind also that our groundsman was having his first year at the Ageas Bowl, yes. To be placed with those sort of demands in your first year is something quite extraordinary. And all of the other people on the operations side that have worked so hard with the ECB to make sure that we could deliver these consecutive matches at just 2 grounds throughout the summer. It is actually a spectacular effort by all of these people.
Daniel, when did it sort of dawn on you that actually you would get this huge responsibility up here?
Well, I think when the ECB outlined, and I understood the importance and massive security for the game of getting the matches on from a broadcast perspective and for the distributions for all first-class counties, I think we realised that having invested in a hotel in a similar way to Hampshire had done was going to be helpful. But as Rod said, none of us could take anything for granted. I think at that point, we, Steve Davis, our ops director, put together a 50-page PowerPoint, which was really kind of us laying down our thinking, initial thoughts of how we would do it. And that definitely saved us some time. The ECB did something similar, and then we effectively swapped notes. But, over 100 risk assessments, as Rod says, one-way systems, anti-back. It's test matches and one-day internationals are usually physically wearing for the teams, but this one's been very mentally wearing because you're constantly concentrating on very small things like, oh, I've touched a door handle that's got a red sticker on it. Yes. That means I have to immediately anti-back. Or, oh, I've gone down the wrong staircase. So it's constantly thinking and concentrating on stuff that you wouldn't normally think about at all. And I think that's been an element that's been very, very challenging. And then, also support what Rod says about the grounds teams. I mean, Matt Merchant's been here 30 years, but, I don't think any ground anywhere in the world has ever done 3 test pitches back-to-back. No. And I think it's an astonishing achievement what the grounds teams have delivered, really. And I think it's something that, as a game, we can genuinely be proud of as a whole.
Yeah, I'm looking at them now, actually, out there again, rolling and getting everything organised and so on. Did you, was the feeling for both of you, let's start with Daniel this time, that you're actually doing this for the greater good? We'll get to the nitty-gritty and how much you might have made out of it, or not, or lost, perhaps, during the course of this chat. But was the main driver the fact that actually you were doing this for the whole game?
Well, without doubt, Aggers. I remember when Tom was in front of the DCMS committee and they talked about a potential loss to the game of the best part of £300 million, which, that level could have seen some counties go bust. And I think when you think about it in that sense and the number of people that could lose their jobs across cricket, this became an imperative for the game as a whole to get these international days of cricket. Then it became a real collective purpose to say, how do we actually do this? Something that's never been done. And I think it did become something that was massively important for the whole game. And I have to say, the solidarity from my colleagues across the whole county network has been amazing, and the support that we've had. And there were even those venues that were due to host international cricket this year, everybody understood that this was a singular one-off summer, that it was about getting the games on and broadcast, and that was the priority.
That's interesting, Rod, isn't it? Because it wasn't so long ago that you're almost all pitted against each other in terms of actually having to bid against each other and so on to make it work. So have you felt that same solidarity?
Oh, without question. The relationship between Lancashire and Hampshire actually has been quite tight throughout this process, and I know that Daniel and my chief executive, David Mann, worked very closely when they were preparing for the fixtures, and we've been wishing each other good luck throughout the whole series. Certainly, the greater good is uppermost in all of our minds throughout all of this, and in fact, I think I've mentioned to you before, the fees for staging the matches were very modest. We've done very well in the business sense. I'm not making any complaints about that. We've had full capacity of use of the hotel for more than 2 months now. And that's helped us to reopen our hotel business. So it's been satisfactory for us, but the biggest plus of the whole situation was that we were able to rescue so much of what is the largest broadcasting rights agreement we've ever had with the various broadcasters, and salvage an awful lot of what otherwise would have been lost income this year. So we're very proud of having done that for the whole game.
What about the brief at the start? Because obviously, yes, from experience, we've experienced both grounds and a lot of them both, and they're obviously very different. And here at Old Trafford, obviously more or less in the middle of Manchester, compared to the Ageas Bowl, outside and fresh. But then there are other aspects that have made others. Old Trafford's got good points to it as well. But did you have the same sort of a brief and the same sort of idea of what you were going to provide as far as this bubble was concerned, and how it was actually going to work? Let's start with you, Rod, on that one.
Well, yes, I think that the notion of the bubble, the biosecure bubble, was applied equally to both venues. Obviously, both venues have got different characteristics, different benefits, other things, but the truth is all of the grounds in the United Kingdom now are very, very good. They're excellent cricket grounds, all the international grounds. And it just happened that we're the 2 grounds that have hotels which are integral to the whole stadium. And so we were able to comply more easily with the concept of a biosecure bubble. And for that, we're very grateful. And I think that the rules regarding that were essentially similar in both venues. I don't know whether Daniel feels that.
Yes, very much so. I think the the template was there. As I said, we'd done a 50-page PowerPoint, we'd worked through with the ECB, but ultimately, you're talking about multiple zones, one-way systems, socially distanced restaurant, perspex screens, PPE for all staff. There was a template that was, working closely with the public health in both areas for them. And really, once you kind of understand what the rules were, and also a lot of this was around providing confidence to the overseas boards to go, do you know what, we can do this safely. And a thing that I think also massive credit to the ECB because of the cost was the regular testing. I think like I said before we started that whatever the venues did, actually core to this strategy was going to be an ECB commitment to do weekly testing, and they've done that, and it's been expensive, but without it, these days could not have gone ahead. So I think a combination of space for the overlay for all of your thermal screening and everything, and the hotels, the space, the one-way systems, perspex screens and everything, and also the testing. I think a combination of those things has enabled this to happen.
And what is definitely true of both grounds, and I can certainly say this, is that the attitude of the people involved, the stewards, those who are doing all these tests, people who are sitting in these little booths monitoring temperatures all the time, it's infuriating at times going around different parts of the ground, show your pass, have your temperature tested, but okay, we've got used to it, but it's been done in such a very gentle, kindly way actually by all the staff from both grounds. That certainly helped.
Well,
yes,
thank you for that.
Yeah.
Go on, Dan.
Yeah, I know Jason Holder was particularly taken with our 80-year-old Stan the Legend Pritchard.
Yes, he was. Well, what we have got to know is which COVID testers to go to and which ones to avoid. And believe me, there is a little list from both grounds as to the ones that we've definitely avoided over this last 3 months or so. How about entertainment for the players? What did you try and lay on down at the Ageas, Rod, to give them something to do?
Well, obviously we had some internal entertainment with pool tables and dartboards and various other activities to just occupy minds for the evenings and the like. But of course we've also got the benefit of a lot of space around the ground and plenty of practice areas and walking areas, and fundamentally I think what was very popular with the players and the officials alike was the golf course, which they were able to play on, subject to booking times and what have you. And I think
just walk around it actually was good enough.
Yes, I think any space to walk around, get away from the interior feeling of the bubble was beneficial. And I've been getting quite a lot of letters and notes back from some of the players and officials that used the golf course and some of the other entertainments, and really found that a great break from the sort of the feeling of being stuck inside the bubble all of the time, and which I think was slightly relaxed towards the end. I think one or two people managed to get out to go fishing and various other activities, to restaurants and variously, but generally speaking, being cooped up inside anywhere for a long period of time is always going to be difficult if you don't have things to distract you.
Very true. And Danny, what have the players had here? We've got a very nice dartboard over there in the Red Rose Suite that we've made plenty of use of, and a table tennis table, for which we're very grateful, thank you. What have the players had? Yes,
well, the players have had a number of things here, your usual kind of racing car and golf simulators, and I know the West Indies love their dominoes,
right.
But different things. I know that the BBC did have a particularly aggressive table tennis tournament, if I remember rightly, one night, which was quite entertaining. But I think one of our big things here was that we got some fantastic products for the food. I mean, the West Indies loved our red pea soup, which I think the chef got a bit fed up because he was asked to make it like 8 days in a row. And then the Pakistan team loved their homemade rotis. So, I think it's very difficult. And, when you think about these young guys who are effectively cooped up for a long period, and so it's just trying to understand, what are the things that they can do, whether it's a particular type of food choice or a particular type of playing or entertainment relaxation. And it's just trying to do what you can, and listening and being able to do different things at different times.
Yeah. There is, of course, a bottom line to all this, and we talked a bit about for the greater good, if you like. But Rod, let's start with you. As far as the bottom line there is concerned, will you have made money out of doing this?
I don't think we would have made a spectacular amount of money. I think the hotel would have washed its face in a little bit more, but frankly, the stadium itself was really offered largely on an on-cost basis, and in fairness, the ECB picked up all the costs. So from that point of view, we benefited from staging these matches, not only sort of from the reputational point of view, but clearly, a certain amount of financial gain, particularly in the hotel business. But what it also enabled us to do was to, if you like, cash flow the reopening of the hotel, which otherwise would have been quite a big burden for us. So I think it's been beneficial all round, but hopefully, in the major sense, beneficial for the game as a whole.
Yes, interesting. You mentioned reputational there, because I know you've battled to get Test cricket staged regularly there at the Ageas Bowl. You couldn't have done any more this time than to show that you're more than capable of doing so.
I'd like to think so, Aggers, and and I think that the ECB recognised this. But let's just always remind ourselves that we now have 7 very, very good Test match grounds, and the 6 that get the fixtures don't particularly want to give them away. So there is some competitive tension there. But I'd like to think that club, if you like, might be increased now to 7, and we'll have a role, because I'm not quite sure that biosecurity, I don't think we've seen the last of biosecurity in international sport. So we may be called into action again sometime in the future.
Yeah. And Daniel, how about you as far as the club and finances go?
Yeah, very similar to Rod. Obviously, the template was the same from the ECB. Very much stadium-wise was on a cost-plus basis, cost recovery basis. I think the hotel obviously benefited. I think, and actually one of the other things that's helpful there is people have seen, the hospitality industry has been decimated with, you think of the mental health issues of staff being on furlough for 5 months, and actually for us to actually be able to give our staff work, I think has been something that has been fantastic for those individuals. So I think definitely from a hotel and the hotel staff side of it, we've benefited. And I think another thing that people underestimate is actually, when you've got significant sponsors such as Ageas and Emirates, actually has been able to give significant value back to them in a very difficult year when, whatever organisation you are, a lot of sponsors and partners are often asking for money back, and we've been absolutely delighted with the support we've had with Emirates and our major partners, and I think that's something that has really, really helped us, no doubt.
Well, they've certainly had opportunity to be name-checked, haven't they? Let's face it, over the course of... I'm just looking at the ground staff trudging off again. I mean, how do they map out these pitches as well, Daniel? I mean, this one looks a bit tired, but I'm not surprised. I mean, they've staged those three consecutive Test matches on here. Did they sort of map them all out at the start?
Yes, they do. I mean, to be fair, they've been doing this a long time. Last year with the World Cup, we had a very similar issue. I think we had more days than anybody else. I think it was 7, and including 2 semi-final days, if you remember. And so the guys have been doing it a long time. The challenge comes when you have multiple TV pitches, because it's all about camera positions, and sometimes you might have to put one on a box balcony, which I think we've had to do this year. So you create a TV pitch out of nowhere. So I think it is very difficult, but I'm incredibly proud of them, and particularly with the 3 back-to-back Test pitches. I think it was England 3, opposition 0, I think.
It was. And that was a really remarkable effort by the ground staff. You mentioned, Rod, about you haven't seen the end of biosecure sport and bubbles and cricket and so on. Would you do it all again?
If asked, yes, of course. And and I think that there is the potential in future for touring sides to be concerned about travelling the country and staying in hotels until such time as there is a viable vaccine for the coronavirus or COVID-19. So we're sort of semi-standing by to see if we're needed next year, and any time in the future. I think having provided such safe and secure options for the travelling sides this year, I think that some teams may say, well, the current status of this pandemic, we still feel that we need some kind of protection to travel to other countries.
Yes. I mean, it's difficult to see it happening without a hotel on site. Would you agree with that, Rod?
Well, it's very difficult to make it work without a hotel on site. I don't particularly want to start, this isn't a promotional campaign for the Ageas Bowl. I think it does give us a very unique role where biosecurity is required together with Emirates Old Trafford. So, I think that we have that up our sleeve. And we're more than happy, obviously, to provide to host these matches wherever possible. But equally, I think we'd all like to see a return to the status quo at some stage, whatever that is in future, and make sure that all these amazing grounds are being properly used.
Yeah. I suppose my last question to both of you, really, Dan, I'll start with you, is can the game survive another summer like this, or many more summers like this? I mean, the broadcasting contract is obviously in place, but much of that was built around the 100, which they're hoping is obviously going to start next year, a year late. What are your thoughts?
Yes, I believe so. I think the thing I've learnt about the industry of cricket is that we're collectively very resilient, and that we have clever, creative people, and that we are problem solvers. And so I absolutely believe that we will make it work, whatever it is. I think if you take the international venues, one of the big challenges, particularly over the upcoming winter, is confusion around the rules around business events and conference and events, and that's big parts of our businesses, for us and the Ageas. And I think the thing that Rod and I can talk about is that, by doing behind closed doors, which has 350 people in a complicated indoor environment safely, that there's actually a lot that we can share with the rest of the game in terms of how we can keep those taps on, those lights on from that conference and events business. And with our safe in one place element in terms of the conference piece, it's really important to be able to pay the bills over the winter for these for us larger venues in cricket. But I do believe that we can and we will.
Well, many thanks to both of you, not just for obviously coming and chatting through the break now, but for everything that you and your staff have done throughout the summer, because it looked very, very bleak not so long ago, but we're just one game away from completing the whole of the men's programme, which is fantastic.